our software testing class. I trust we had a great week, and welcome on board for another interesting session. So I dropped some resources in the channel in the course of last week. How many of us were able to go through it? And do we have any questions? Okay, everywhere is too quiet. Everywhere is so quiet. Rebecca, how are you? Benjoy, how are you? Adisola. Okay, I heard Adisola's voice. No, I didn't hear her voice. I saw a chat.
Good
Let's
evening.
Good evening, Joy. Let's hear from everyone. Jolomi, Esther, Wajudat, Abiodun. I'm guessing this is your first time, Wajudat, your first class. Please unmute, speak. Let's get to meet you.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, everyone. So this is my first time of joining the class, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Good for a while, but I've not really been active. So I saw the link today and decided to join because I've been meaning um to be serious with this my software testing career, but then I've not been serious about it. So maybe I'll this will be another chance for me to take it more serious. For real. Because I've been in the coding mom group for a while now, but I've not been really active and all of that. So thank you, Udemy, for
Welcome. You're welcome. It's great to have you. I showed my face in the last class. My internet is not so great today, so I don't want to risk turning on my video. But yeah, you're welcome. Esther, we've not heard your voice. Rebecca. Oh, I heard someone's voice earlier. Maybe it was Rebecca's. But let's hear. How's your week been? Let's hear from you.
Good evening once again. My weekend has been fine. My week
Great,
has been awesome.
great,
And
great.
yes, I went through some of the various testing types you sent. Even though I didn't finish all, but at least I did.
It's a long list.
Yes. I got to I think letter M or so.
Okay. So
Yeah.
are there any areas that you find confusing? Is there any, do you have any questions?
So far, no questions. No.
Okay, great. Why did that? I'm guessing you are in the software testing squad already. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And you saw the link and the slide to the last class along with the video, right? Um, Rebecca is so quiet. I hope all is well. I just want us to use the next like 2 minutes to review what we learned from last class and ask any questions if we have any. Are there any questions from the last class? Any questions from the link shared or the resources shared in the course of the week? No. Okay. Is the answer no, or should I just assume is no? All right, everywhere is quiet again. Okay, we have a very quiet class. That's
Good evening, ladies. Please don't be quiet. Engage with the male.
it's all good. So I'll share my slide for today's class. Sorry, let me share specific slide. Okay, so we'll go into today's class. Yeah, I'm sure I just wanted to mention that as a source of encouragement. I know we had a conversation last week around the whys why you joined software testing, why you're in it, and the importance of that why in helping you to make the most of it. So you're going to be spending 1 hour or so dedicating at least 1 hour every week to this. You might as well like aim to see it through to the end, right? So I just want to encourage you. I know sometimes as moms we get busy, things happen and takes our priority, but let's put in our best in learning these things, right? Yeah, so it will not just be a knowledge you have, it will be a knowledge you'll be able to practice with and can in turn generate revenue for you. Okay, so today we'll be looking at the principles of software testing. Before we go into today's class, which I hope will be brief, I'll be sharing the slides as usual, but I'll just pick the key areas and explain them. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I wanted to add something from the previous class that I didn't mention. So in software testing, right, there are types of software testing. There's the static testing and there's dynamic testing, right? Static testing is when you don't actually execute a test. You've not started checking the UI to see if there's a bug, or um checking if it works functionally, or checking if it works performance wise, right? That's you when you pick a mobile app or you pick a web app and you start checking it with the view of catching or spotting issues. That's you executing tests. So testing is not limited, software testing is not limited to you just executing tests, looking for issues, looking for bugs on an application. There's the static testing bit that deals with you reviewing documents, that deals with you reviewing and test artifacts to check that there are no issues around them, right? So it might not require you to log in, click a button, scroll, or do some other things that are actual test execution, right? But they are also you reviewing and revising documents, or reviewing and revising code, or reviewing and revising test items. So those types of review and analysis in software testing is called static testing, right? Where you are not executing, clicking, you're not doing a physical activity per se, clicking here, scrolling here, dragging this. So static testing is when you are testing without test execution, right? Reviewing, and an example is you reviewing a requirement document, or reviewing a design, or reviewing a code, right? For a PR. That's pull request. Dynamic testing, on the other hand, is like what's an opposite? Static testing then versus dynamic testing. Dynamic testing is what actually requires test execution. So you need to have test data, you need to have an email or a phone number, a password to log in, to carry out, to execute the login test. So, and I just wanted you to mentally capture that static testing is more of review and analysis, while dynamic testing is the actual test execution, where you need to click here, drag this, load something, basically executing a task, right? Yeah, so I just remembered I didn't mention that in last class. So today's class, we're looking at the principles of software testing, and there's 7 in number. We'll be looking at what the principles of testing are and what 7 testing activities make up the test process. So 7 principles of software testing and 7 test activities that make up the test process. So just like life, where there are circles and there are steps, right? When a child is born, There's a time for the child to just suck, cry, pull, is expected for the babies, right? Then later they move to the next step where they're expected to crawl, be able to pick things, be able to move around, even though it's on their is back crawling, right? So that's another stage. Then there are other stages, right? After that, they should be able to stand, they should be able to walk, etc. Just as life has phases, there are also phases in software testing. I will be seeing them, maybe not in today's class. I'm thinking in subsequent classes, we'll be seeing them. But essentially, just as in life, there is steps and stages for everything. Same with software testing. So I mentioned in the last class that this part of the training, the understanding the basics of software testing is usually the boring part because there's no practical work. You are not, it's an understanding, a knowledge gaining phase of software testing. And any successful software tester needs to have sufficient knowledge of the fundamentals of software testing. So while we have many people who are doing automation, who are saying they can automate in, and they have a list of tools and list of frameworks that they automate in, because now everybody has turned QA engineering and software testing to automation, right? Automation is just a part of software testing and quality assurance, and it is not the whole. No, we can have robots automate, but we need human beings to understand the system and understand use cases that a robot cannot understand. For automation, you make use of tools. Automation testing is essentially making use of tools to do your tests. So instead of you going to facebook.com, facebook.com, and then you want to test sign up, and you go to the sign up page, you click on sign up, you fill in your first name, last name, etc. Instead of having to do that every time, maybe I should go there so that we facebook.com. Okay. I'm not sharing my full screen. Let me stop sharing and share. All right, can you see my screen? Okay. I think you can. I'm not looking at the call, so I won't be able to.
Yes.
All right, great. So I'm on the create an account page. Create a page. No, not a page. Join. Sign up. Sign up. All right. So this is the create an account page of Facebook. As a tester, software tester, you've been given this sign up feature to test on facebook.com. To carry out testing activities, that's executing the test, you need to come and then ensure that you can click on each of the fields, ensure you can input accurate values, ensure that maybe an error message is displayed the way it's displaying this error when a field is not filled. You are testing a lot of things, right? For example, I would flag this because this is supposed to be a first name field. I don't know which country of the world that people use numbers as their names. So this field should only, maybe there's I don't know, TK, you can let me know. You're more advanced. Maybe you are more exposed. But I don't think there is any country that should accept numbers as for the field for first name or surname, right? First name or surname, yes, you can even allow special characters. By special characters, I mean hyphen for people who have compound names. and they use hyphens, you can allow special characters, right? For such people. But numbers, I don't know why. I don't know of a use case where a number would be used as first name or last name, right? So we have already started test execution on this sign up page of Facebook. So each time you want to test Facebook, you start with what we call the happy part. Happy part is positive test, meaning if the requirement says that um, to sign up on Facebook, user must input a first name, a surname, a valid date of birth. Let's just say first, let's stick to first name and surname now. A valid first name and a valid surname, right? And they say the surname, the name field should only accept alphabets as letters and special characters. So a happy test will be you testing the application with alphabets. So maybe Ade, Ronke, right? This is a happy test, which I refer to as positive test. On the other hand, you can test so many other things, one of which we tested earlier on, right? You can test, why is your auto selecting? You can test if it allows numbers. You can test if it allows a string, that's combination of alphabets, numbers, and special characters, right? Combination of alphabets and numbers first. You can test what happens when you enter special characters. You see, you're already doing test execution and checking, using that to understand the system, right? So this is already test execution. I was trying to explain manual testing and automation testing, even though manual testing is controversial. But each time somebody who was assigned to test sign up on Facebook wants to execute the test, it means that they must have written like at least 10 test cases to speak to this page. First test case would be enter a valid first name and valid surname. Next test case can be a negative test, right? Unhappy part. You are checking if what will happen if I don't enter any first name, but I enter a surname. You see that the outcome is that it sends a warning. It highlights that field and shows a warning sign, right? So that's the result of that test. You can decide, okay, so if I don't put any first name or any surname, can I still click on sign up? For example, if I were to test this page, I have so many issues already on this page, right? Because why is the sign up button active if all the fields have not been selected? Gray it out if all these fields are required. So don't make this button active until I have filled all the fields. Do you understand? Does anybody understand what I'm trying to say here?
Yes, yes, we do.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say here is this. Ensure that it is only after enter a valid phone number. Okay. Alright. Okay. Date of birth. Please make sure that you use a real date of birth. Okay. So let's come and pick. So there are so many test cases you can pick up. Maybe when we get to test cases, we'll use this Facebook sign up page to run some tests, but there's so many tests that we can do on this page, right? So now I've picked a valid date, right? I've picked a valid date, I've imputed the password. That's when I think my own expectation of the application is that that's when this sign up green button should be active. It shouldn't be active when I have not filled some things. But that's test execution. So imagine person A has been assigned this page, and each time she wants to test each of the 10 test cases, I'd mentioned examples of some of the test cases. She needs to manually input the data, click on send, see if there's an error, note the result. Okay, there was an error when I did not input first name. Should then tick the status as pass. Come again, execute test case 2. Try to sign up without a valid date of birth. Maybe you use today's date as date of birth. The Your expected behavior is that it should flag it, right? It should throw an error. You see now that it's throwing an error, that the dates, there's something wrong with the date. If you hover on it, it then shows you the error message. You then go to your test case and tick pass, is showing the error message, right? Having to do that test repeatedly over and over again every day can be exhausting. So automation testing came into light to be able to help testers test repeated tests quicker, right? It didn't come to replace the software tester's ability to think critically or analyze a page, analyze a design, or analyze functionality, right? So while software testing is great, you cannot be a good software tester without understanding the basics of software testing, right? So that's why this part of the class, though it might seem boring, but is the foundation of how great you would be as a software tester. All right, that being said, I know I have derailed a bit. Let's go back to our class for today. So I'll show the slides. Returning to the slides now. All right, so what are the 7 principles of software testing? Then again, I think I mentioned this in the last class, that for entry-level roles and interviews, maybe you want to get an internship or you want to get an entry-level job. Most of the interviews would ask questions around what will be taken in this fundamental class. So it's important you are versed in it, you read it, you research, you ask questions if you are not clear, and then you know it, because that will be the basis of most of the entry-level interviews you get. Okay, so sorry, I got a bit distracted. Sorry, please, I'm very sorry. All right, apologies for that. So 7 principles of software testing. The first principle says testing shows the presence of defects and not their absence. The job of the software tester is not to come and say, oh, I've tested this application, there's no issue with it, right? Like we saw with the Facebook sign up page that I just played around with. I had no intention, I've not been on this page for years. I had no intention of looking at that page, right? But by just exploratory testing and by looking at the application, trying to learn about it, which is exploratory testing in a nutshell, I can see some behaviors that I think can be better. I can see some issues that I'm having around the validation, right? It's telling me a thing or two about what is accepted and what should not be accepted by this application. So principle 1 is trying to tell you that when you are given an application to test, your job is not just to come and say, I've tested it the way they wrote the BRD and it works fine. No, because you would have, the BRD only captures some scenarios And for those who are just joining us, BRD means business requirement documents. We explained it in the first class that is a document, it's like a user manual. You know, when you buy a phone or a new device and you are given a manual, or it comes with a manual. I know most of us don't read the manuals, right? But a new device usually comes with a manual on how it will work. So consider a BRD as one of such documents that is telling you about the product you're about to build, what it should have, the features it should have, the expectations that you have from the product, the things that you should be looking out for in the product. A BRD is that kind of document, right? That tells you what's the functional specification and every other thing that that application should have. So if you are giving the application, you're giving a BRD, your job as a tester is not just to come from it with the angle of the BRD. Oh, they said I should be able to create an account. So on Facebook, can I create an account? Yes, I can create an account. No, it's beyond that. It's beyond just testing that there's no problem with the application. It involves you testing, okay, what if I try to log in with these details? What if I try to log in from this route? Exploring different scenarios, exploring different user behaviors. You might assume that everybody knows what um first name means, right? Or you might assume that everybody knows that they need to put a first name and a last name. Don't assume, test all scenarios. We said in the last class that you are a representative of your end users. Your end users may not all be learned people. Your end users may all not have smartphones, right? So you are testing for all the use cases, all the different user types that are out there in the market. And you are testing that should somebody who is not literate pick the app and someone who is literate picks the same app, both of them will still have the same understanding. They will be able to easily understand the application and easily work with the application, right? Your BRD will not capture that. But it's while you are testing that you will check, like the example I cited with colors, that you use an orange and lemon, orange, lemon, and yellow colors, right? It takes you understanding that there are some users that will be color blind to say, this color combination is not going great, because you foresee that some color blind people might have issues reading a page that has all that combination of colors, right? So automation will not capture that. It takes you understanding the role of a software tester to be able to bring that angle in your development team to say, no, these color combinations cannot work. And you cite your examples. For accessibility, users that have color blindness, they will not be able to relate with this, right? So that being said, principle one, it shows the presence of defects and not their absence. Your job is to explore all the possible scenarios to see if a user, if our user is some applications say you must be 16 years and above to use it. So you need to test as a 16-year-old person. As a 16-year-old person, do I understand entry and usage of this app? You don't just test because you are 35. You don't just test as a 35-year-old. You need to test all the possible scenarios. If it's a service, you need to test if the application you're testing is a service-based application. You need to explore different scenarios. Okay, what if the person is blind? Can the person sign up on Facebook? Is it compatible for accessibility, right? Does it, what if it's a service, what if the person is on wheelchair? Can they access this building? You know, there are some buildings that have entrances for people who use wheelchairs, right? That's somebody, someone in the engineering team was thinking about those users, those use cases, and was thinking of that scenario. So if I build a high-rise building and there's no elevator, how will somebody who is on a wheelchair enter? Do we need to carry the person? That's the mentality software testers come with. They think of it from all possible angles while testing the application. So that's principle one. Principle two, exhaustive testing is impossible. And I wrote there, testing no they finish. So one quick way to remember this principle two is to tell yourself testing no they finish. Because you can test an application right now and say, oh, it's working well. And did you go to it's working well in Lagos, Nigeria, and you move to maybe Jos and you see something has affected the app, right? So testing, or you check date and time. Oh, it's working very well in Nigeria. It's very great. When I just launched the app, dates and everything is fine. Then you relocate somewhere that has a different time. So say Ghana, that is GMT instead of us as GMT plus one. And then you go to the app and it's still reading Nigerian time, right? That's an issue. That's an issue you spotted because you changed the environment, right? So principle two is saying that you can't boldly say, I have finished testing this application. Exhaustive testing is impossible. There will always be a new feature added to the application. There will always be a new use case. There will always be a new behavior, right? So you can't categorically say testing has been completed on this application and there are no issues. That's what principle two speaks to. Principle three says early testing saves time and money. Principle three, I think, is self-explanatory. If you start testing an application early, if you even review and I explained this extensively in last class, that from reviewing a document, you can spot issues that the application will have before one line of code is written. So we usually encourage development teams to bring in the software testers, especially if your team is an agile team. Let the software testers be there in the room as soon as the idea is conceived. As soon as you have the requirement documents and the specifications, bring in the software testers so that they can do static testing. They can review your images. They can review your requirements. They can check your designs. They can explore, apply their analytical thinking to say, oh, will this work for someone who is colorblind? Will this work for somebody who is not literate? Will this work with the different use cases, right? Sorry, give me a minute to close my window. My neighbor's gen is making a lot of noise. 1 minute. Okay. Apologies for that. Yeah. So bringing in the software tester early, and you as a software tester, when you are brought into the team, you get to work immediately. Testing early helps the organization save time and money. How? So a lot of times, especially in this part of the country, Nigeria, I think it's getting better now, but before you would see an idea, someone had an idea, oh, let's build a payment app that can help you to convert money from USD to Naira instantly, right? Someone conceives that idea. He then gets developers. Developers will spend like some months working on the application. There will be no tester in the room. They might have a documentation. They might have a product designer that's created designs. They have a backend engineer that started working on it. They have a front end engineer and a mobile engineer that have started working on the designs. They can spend like 6 months building that app. Then when it is 1 week to when they want to launch, they now remember, we've not tested this app. Oh, let's go and find a software tester. A lot of the time, that is, at least when I started testing, that was how it was. Software testers will only be brought when developers have finished writing their code and the application is almost ready to be deployed. That's when they now bring a software tester and say, we've done everything. Everything is fine. Just test it. Shebi is just test you want to test. 1 week should be enough. They are the ones that will give you time. Also, as so how long it will take for you to test the application, right? A lot of the times, in scenarios like that, for applications I've worked with, we then go test the application and come out with like 50 something bugs or some flows that don't just make sense, or some flows that will fail for some audiences. Of imagine a payment app that would crash if 100 users try to sign in at the same time, but they would have said they've built the application, right? It is from testing they begin to see, oh, we should have built the system to be scalable. We should have built the system to be able to withstand a lot of load, a lot of users. That's when they begin to see the flaws based on your test reports and the bugs you have found. So at that time, it means that the 6 months they spent, they need to go back and start reworking everything that had been done. A lot of the time, I see a lot of the times products that follow that path, we see them having to change many things. They'll need to go back to sign up that they did in month 1 and go back and change a lot of logic based on the results. They need to go back to maybe conversion that they did in month 4. Go and change a lot of logic. So the 6 months they did earlier on, they may end up spending another 6 months trying to correct issues that were spotted by the software tester. So the team has lost time. And imagine if it's a product that has not gone live, that is not making money. It means that for that 6 extra months, the owner of that project has to pay everybody in the team to work for that 6 extra months. So that's money also that would have been saved. So when testing is shifted to the end of product development, it usually comes with a lot of problems, right? And it's not advisable because of time and money. So that's what principle 3 is talking about. Principle 4, defect clusters together. So what's this principle trying to say? This principle deals with like 80-20 rule. So it's saying that a small defects cluster together, meaning issues like company. Sorry, I'm just trying to frame it in a way that you easily remember. So if you spot issues within a particular part of the application, there's a high tendency that there will be many more issues around that feature. So for example, if you were given 2 features to test, sign up and login for this Facebook, and then you've had 15 test cases for sign up and 15 test cases for login. But you notice that while testing, there were like 10 bugs that you noted, 10 bugs. Remember, we learned what bugs mean from the last class. So we found out that you had 10 bugs from the sign up page and you had 2 bugs from the login page. Principle 4 is trying to say that sign up page that you saw a lot of bugs, go back and check. There's a high tendency that there are more issues with that module because of the number of issues that you have seen. So in summary, saying a small number of modules usually contains most of the defects discovered. So you might test 10 applications, but of all that 10 applications, 9 can work well, but there's one particular module that can contain all the issues. And I've seen it. I just remember that I did some testing this week, and there was a particular module that was very problematic. That module had almost everything was not working in that module on the app, right? So it defects cluster together. Okay, so most of the defects discovered during testing or is responsible for most of the operational failures. So what we're trying to say is most times 80% of the defects are found within 20% of the model. You might test 10 application and 10 features for that application, but it's not all 10 that will have significant bugs. There will be one or two modules that will have the most bugs. That's what principle 4 is talking about. Principle 5, beware of pesticide paradox. So what's pesticide paradox? You know the way you use the way we use insecticide these days, and we say the insecticide is no longer working. The mosquitoes or the cockroaches or whatever we're trying to kill has become immune to the insecticide, right? Is there anybody that is a witness? Maybe you've used Raid and Raid was working very well when you were a child. But now, if they say you should go and buy Raid, you'll just be laughing that Raid doesn't work anymore. The mosquitoes are now used to Raid. Is there anybody that has ever thought or said that before or experienced this before? Okay.
Yeah, so
Esther, and
yes,
Juliana.
I'm still
Okay, thanks.
myself.
Oh, sorry, your line is not very clear. I don't know if it's my network. I couldn't hear you clearly. But I'll cite myself as an example. Thanks for the responses. When I was when I was young, I used to young. When I was younger, I used to feel that Baygon was the best, most effective insecticide. That Baygon was like the final answer. And that was how it was. It worked, you know, by that time we didn't have sniper. In fact, sniper now is not as effective as when it came out initially, right? So then as a child, there was all these other stronger ones were not there. It was Baygon that was like the real deal. And once we just see that our parents have bought Baygon, we know, yes, that's the end of mosquito in this house, right? Because we knew it was very effective. But over time, it then got to a stage where there was at that early stage, you could confidently spray the room and sleep naked because you know no mosquito will disturb you because it's Baygon you used. Then it gradually got to a point where you will flee to the room after you stayed 1 hour. You come inside, you say, yes, everything should be dead now. And you see a mosquito just pass you and say, welcome. And you're like, why just fitted this thing now? Maybe it's fake I bought. Or you say maybe it didn't stay long enough. Instead of 1 hour, next time I'll wait for 1 hour, 30 minutes. Right? Over time, the insects grew resistance to the insecticide, so that the insecticide no longer killed them, but their system became immune to it and they built a resistance around it. So you must as well spray air freshener, right? Because the insecticide has now become air freshener to the mosquito. Doesn't have any effect. That's what pesticide paradox principle 5 is talking about. That the way insects can build resistance for a particular pesticide, if you use a particular pesticide over and over again, and the insects can build a resistance against it such that one day they no longer react to it. The same thing happens with your tests. If you run tests over and over again, you get to a point where you no longer find issues. And it happens a lot with automation tests, right? You no longer find issues because it's the same thing you are doing. You are not applying any new scenario. So remember when we're on Facebook sign up page and we entered Ade as first name and Ronke as surname. If you keep entering Ade, Ronke, and you don't change the your combination to say, okay, let me see if I enter Ade hyphen Badejo as first name and see how the system will react to that hyphen or to that different name, then you will not detect anything new. Because if you keep running the test, Ade Ronke today, next week Ade Ronke, 2 weeks time Ade Ronke, next year Ade Ronke, you will still get the same results. You are not discovering anything new. So that's what principle 5 is talking about. That beware of pesticide paradox, beware of being comfortable with the same test cases and running the same test, that you are not detecting any new issues anymore. Because if you keep running the same thing, you will not explore, your users will not, when you sell that product, right, your users will not all sign up with Ade Ronke. Some of them will have Arabic names, some of them will have different types of names. If it's a Yoruba name and they say you should put the you can on your mobile phone, you can, what do they call it? Is it accent? I mean, Yoruba names have this dot at the bottom of the O and a slash at the top of some of those their letters, right? I don't know what is it called. Is it called accent? I don't know. Just similar to French, the way French have all those icons they write on their letters. So I can't remember my Yoruba, but O alone, O letter O is different from O that has a dot under it. A filler, is it filler they call it? Ah, Abi, I can't remember.
As if,
Well,
it is Amion. So I don't know the English actually, but Ami. That's
Army, right? Fear me. I wanted I wanted to say fear me, but I was like, hey, it's been a long time. I think it's primary school that I learned that thing. Thank you so much for that. So some people might want to sign up with that their concentrated Yoruba name. Meaning, if it is Wajida, can you help me with like a Yoruba name that the actual to actually write the name, you need to put that filler, that army on it to retain the name, not the English version of the name. So like Oshun, I think I don't know if the O is supposed to have something at the bottom, but just give me a name that should have all those army on it, or anyone else.
Yes, Oshun needs to have a like a dot under the first name.
At the
Yes,
O.
to
All right, great.
differentiate it from Osun because it might be the same kind of
The
spelling.
the same spelling. Great. Thank you so much. So if you are testing with only if in fact I think at day 2 the E has an army on it too. A sign. I don't know how I explain it to non-Europe, but I think almost everybody here is Yoruba. So I trust that you understand what I'm trying to say. I just hope. If you don't understand, please raise your hand so that I can explain. So for it's not that we have modernized the names, right? If someone was to fill this Facebook form and their name is Aderonke, they're supposed to type in the E with the army on it. If as a tester, you are not checking that beyond the normal E, on your phone, on your mobile phone, you can press E and it will show you different versions of E with different symbols on it, right? I don't know if you've not tested it before, you can try it out. Just go to your phone, especially those keypad phones, those olden days phones. Sometimes you need to press it 3 times before it goes to the type of E that you want, right? You need to test beyond just testing E, oh, it accepts E. You need to test those special versions of E. Instead of just typing ADE, type the ADE with the E that has an army. what will happen to the application when you type it? That's the job of the tester. The developer's head did not reach that place, and the product manager's head most definitely did not reach that place, because in their mind they think all the users are going to be English speaking people, so their names are going to be in English, right? We're not going to have any funny letters, any funny names. That's what's how their BRD will look like. But you know that it's going to go to a Nigerian audience, right? And Nigerian names don't follow the normal English lettering, right? So you need to test for those use cases also. That's by the side. But essentially, we understand what principle 5 means, the pesticide paradox. We'll move to principle 6 now. Testing is context dependent. While some, for those who have started testing, you would see in fact nowadays, JD, job description for test for software testing jobs, is bad, because I feel most recruiters just go to AI and say create a JD for software testing, for a software tester, and copy and paste it, right? Software testing is context dependent. Um, Someone who works on payment applications, right, has dealt with that context of payments. So the person might have more, and payment is a high risk application. If you test it anyhow and you ship it to production, you do anyhow testing in it, customers will lose money once that production hits market, once the product goes live. If customer loses money, it means your organization is losing money. It's either they need to pull out that application from the market, from the Play stores, so that people don't use, or they need to block it, certain features, so that users don't do certain features until the issues that are causing the money loss is resolved. All that drama, right, will adversely affect the application. So a software tester that is testing a social media application, maybe Instagram, there's nothing high risk about Instagram. You are not you are not making payments on Instagram, right? You are just most likely taking a picture, adding a video, commenting on someone's video, sharing somebody. There's nothing high risk about it, right? So the context and the mentality of a software tester that's been working on social media applications would be greatly different from someone who works on a financial application, where you cannot test it while you're sleeping. If you are feeling sleepy, just go and sleep, so that when you wake up and your brain is sharp, you can sit down and test, because it's a high risk application. So testing is context dependent. The approach you take, the principles you take when testing several systems is different. There's no one way to test all applications. While testing is a mindset and analytical thing, there are different sectors or different applications that you need to apply different things in testing. I'll give an example. An e-commerce site, for example, let's use Temu for example. When Temu just launched, they were everywhere. I don't know if, let me ask, how many people do you think, how many users do you think tried to sign up or order an item on Temu in the first week of their launch? Can anyone just guess? Based on all the adverts we saw, and now people were buying, testing, this thing is cheap, this thing is cheap, let me buy, let me see. Can anyone just give a rough estimate of how many people worldwide we think would have shopped on Temu when it just got launched? There's no correct answer. I don't know. I don't work in Temu, but I don't know the answer. But let's just hear from you guys. Does anyone have an Excel? Okay, 1 million. Okay, thank you, Adeshola. So let's say 1 million, right? Now think of it is an e-commerce site, meaning is it going to be a high traffic site? Another good example, 2020 when COVID hit, businesses closed down. People were asked to stay at home during COVID. The next thing, because people were at home, it meant that people were not going out. At that time, most work were switched to remote. So people like Zoom, Google Meet, um, they started encountering a lot of people using them because people who used to go to office and have in-person meetings, because of COVID, everybody just switched to either Zoom, Google Meet, or any similar video conferencing or meeting application. If those applications, if they were not tested for performance, you know that Zoom would have crashed when COVID hit. You just hear Zoom has crashed. Users cannot log in because 1 minute people were having normal meetings in their offices, and the next minute everybody was online having meetings online, right? If there was not sufficient performance test done on the application, there would have been a crash. I don't know how many of us have heard of um, e-commerce sites like Jumia, Konga having downtime during Black Friday sales. I think the first few years when they joined, there was that. You know, Black Friday sales is a specific time of the year, some days where they will reduce the prices ridiculously. So most times people save up till the end of the year so that they can buy things during Black Friday. It then means that the number of traffic that would have come to Jumia in January will be different from the number of traffic of people that will go to Jumia during Black Friday. If you don't do performance tests for those e-commerce sites, it means that when it's Black Friday period, the app will just crash. You just see 404 not found, or you just see the site cannot be reached because the number of people that are trying to book or shop at that time was heavier than the servers holding the application. So the servers just crashed. And a lot of the times, I don't know, because some people who may have paid attention, you would have noticed some of those things, right? So how does this relate to principle 6? While an e-commerce site, performance testing is very important. It's one of the most critical things outside of functionality that a software tester should be testing. In social media app, it might not be the same thing, right? In maybe banking apps, it might not be the same thing, right? Because banks don't do Black Friday, deposit 1 million naira and and then like you can't compare the number of traffic that will move to the bank site compared to an e-commerce site, right? So depending on the application and the sector you're working in, some tests might be a good test to have, while in some places they are a must. You must do it. So testing is context dependent. And I use performance testing as an example to explain that. For e-commerce sites, you must have a performance tester. You must do performance testing if you don't want to have an embarrassment, because it's not just the site that will go down. It means all the sellers that have displayed their wares on your site will lose customers. And I think something like that happened in the past. I think maybe with Alibaba or Jumia and Konga, one of the sites went down. People just ported to the next site. Say, for example, Jumia crashed. They just say, whoa, 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 let's go to Konga, let's go to Konga. Everybody just ported. So it means if the sellers, if I had a business and I posted all my items only on Jumia, I would have lost money because the competitor, because of there was a downtime on one, people just moved, the traffic just jumped to the other competitor. So it's very important you understand that testing is context dependent. All right. So the last principle states that absence of error is a fallacy. You can't beat your chest. As I don't know, I've not seen any software tester that's come out to beat their chest that, in fact, even developers don't do that. They can just say that this application is secured, this application is safe to use, this application is this, but nobody will say you will not be able to spot any bug in this application. We finished testing and it is bug free. Right? That's what um principle 7 is saying that there's an absence of error is a fallacy. It is you just daydreaming. It's not possible. All right, so quickly, I know time is fast spent. I'll just go through the test processes. So we have 7 test processes. You might see different test processes online, but I've picked this 7 to explain. Sorry, I need some water. Okay, so I picked this 7 to explain as the test activities that happen during testing. First is test planning. So in this stage, it requires you to think about the approach you want to take to testing, think of the resources you will need for testing, think of your understanding of the product, all that you need, right? Just like the name implies, test planning. How do you want to plan your testing activity? That's what this phase, this test process is about. At the end of this phase, you'll come out with a document called the test plan. The product or the end product of your test planning should be that you as a tester will develop a test plan that shows in details what you want to test, how you want to test it, when you want to test it, who wants to test it, right? That's process 1. Process 2, test monitoring and control. So test monitoring is an ongoing activity to compare actual progress with expected progress. So yeah, testing has actually started, right? You want to, here you want to design your test monitoring and control steps. How do you want to monitor that the expected results is equal to the actual results? How do you want to monitor the response of the application to your tests? And there are 2 ways for that I listed here. There's the this is supposed to be preventive approach and reactive approach. The preventive approach to test monitoring and control means you need to think about controlling, that's prevent. Think of how you can control certain situations before they happen. So, for example, to avoid a crash on an e-commerce site, it means you need to do extensive performance testing. Performance testing is a type of test that you execute assuming different load of users. So someone cited 1 million users as an example for Temu, that maybe Temu had 1 million users subscribed. It means that the software tester should be able to replicate the behavior of the system, test how the system would behave when 1,000 users have used, 10,000 users are signing up, 1 million users are signing up, 1,100,000 users are signing up. You need to be able to test those scenarios to see at what point does the system begin to hang? At what point does my laptop begin to show errors? At what point are the servers crying, right? That is a preventive action. Carrying a performance test to know that your application, Ogbeni, your application can only handle 1 million users. So if your users is 1,000,002, your application will crash. You need to be able to carry out a performance test to be able to know that data, to have that data of the system as a software tester, right? And that's a preventive approach, because it means that if you tell your CEO, how many users are you expecting when the product launches? He says, we're expecting 100,000 users. You can say, okay, we're fine in terms of performance because you did performance tests and you checked that when 500,000 users use the application, they can still sign up effectively. So you say, oh yes, we have enough. Our infrastructure is fine. It can handle 100,000 users. But if your infrastructure was built to handle 500,000 users, and then maybe because of plenty successful marketing, like Temu had, instead of 500,000 users that the system was expecting, 1 million people started subscribe. By the time the count moves from that 500K and enters maybe 501,000, you just see, this is like this thing is hanging. Oh. The person that did it 2 hours ago say, no, it didn't hang in my time. Oh, it was going on very well. Oh. I don't know, maybe it's your phone, maybe it's your internet. Before you know it, someone else too is complaining, this thing is hanging. Before you know it, the third person logs in and say, it's showing sites cannot be reachable. Your system is already showing red, it's already shouting, my head, oh, my head, oh, my head, oh. The system is about to die. Those are the signs that it is giving, it's already screaming, right? So a preventive monitoring and control act is an example as performance testing. Reactive, I usually encourage that we don't get to the reactive stage. Reactive means that the issue has happened. So how do we solve it from here, right? If your system crashes, you have lost the trust of all the vendors that signed up on your application to sell their market. You've lost potential customers because all of them have now moved to the competitors, right? And your product now has bad press. Meaning anytime they just say, have you tried Gmail? Say, then those ones that, and I'm sure most of us have done it before with one product or the other. And say, have you tried using, let me not call banks. Have you tried using XYZ? And say that one that their application used to time out anyhow. We'll call another application. We've just branded it because of one failure. We've branded the entire application. So I usually advise don't get to the reactive phase because it's usually more painful to get customers back after you've lost them the first time. So another test process is test analysis. Because of time, I'll be sharing the slides in the channel, and I want to implore us to just read through, and if you have any questions, drop them in the channel. You would drop them on WhatsApp in the WhatsApp channel. So in here, the other methods are test design, test analysis, test design, test implementation, which is where you actually begin to execute the tests. Test execution is where you actually execute the test. Test completion is where you do your reporting of the results that you've gotten from your test execution stage. So I went on to categorize test completion activities, and please, because of time, we'll be calling it a night here. I know we're family, most of us have families and it's a weekend. But please, I want to implore you. I know we are mothers. I don't want to do tests. Even I usually have assessments at the end of every week's class, but because it's the coding mom, I've not spoken to TK or gotten our blessings for that. And I know we are mothers. Life already is overwhelming, but we need to be, I need to be sure that we are committed to learning and we are learning this. So I will still speak to TK about having a small assessment, but please, the resources will be shared in the channel. If you have any questions, read it. If you have any questions, please type it in the WhatsApp channel and I will respond to it. So yes, that's it for today's class. Do we have any questions so far? Okay. No
No
questions.
question from me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Joy. All right. So I guess that's it for tonight. Please, ladies,
Please,
please,
sorry, I have a
let's.
question.
All right, go on, Esther.
Okay, you mentioned something about load testing. Is it
Okay.
possible for one person to test a system for 10,000, 1 million, if 1 million users are on an application, and how it's going to function? Is it possible, or is it that their systems?
Yes,
Sorry.
yes, it's possible. We make use performance testing is done using performance testing tools. There's software that is created to handle that. Some
Okay.
the performance testing. So you can't. There are different ways. I just remembered in the olden days that yes, there was a time when performance testing used to be done manually. It used to be really difficult. So what do I mean? They would an organization can just say they are doing a hackathon and 1,000 people sign up for the hackathon, and maybe out of the 1,000, 800 people come. So they tell them come with your laptops, and they provide them. So olden days it was crowd-based testing, meaning get a bunch of people to a room or get a bunch of people online and tell them enter this email, enter this password. When I say click, click. That's like the idea of doing a performance test for 800 people would have been that. But with tools like JMeter, um, K6, Load Runner, different ancillary, different performance testing tools that you can use now to run performance tests. One person just get the tool, set the number of users you want to, which is known as threads in JMeter, set the number of threads, which represents users. So if you want 1 million users, write 1 million, 1,000,000,000. Then set the time you want them to carry out the activity. Right. So yes, there are tools that enable you to do that.
All
I hope
right.
that.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
All right. Please go on.
Okay, good evening, Jimmy. Thank
Good
you very
evening.
much. So I want to ask, are you going to have any training for us for performance testing later on?
It wasn't part of the scope of this thing, but if if we want that, that would be great. If we want that, I'm assuming that most people on the call don't have any software testing knowledge, right?
Okay, okay, okay.
On call they don't have, but if we have people like that in this call, then it will not make any sense to jump into performance testing, right? We'll need to teach them the basics, then move to API testing, because performance tests is based on API testing. So if you want to set up a performance test, you can't set it up successfully without having knowledge of API testing, right? So depends on the class and the needs, and I would, but essentially for the um I think 6 to 8 weeks that we're the 6 weeks, we're supposed to take fundamentals and API tests.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Any other questions? I'm guessing that is it. All right. Thanks, everybody. Um, thanks for week. Thanks for week 2. It was great having you all on in class. I'm going to share the slides now, or the documents rather, in the chat. And please reach out if you have any questions. Please do. All right. Over to you, TK. I don't know if you're still on the call.
No, yeah, upload to me. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. All right. Good night.